In the small town near the Valley of Souls, golden wheat fields stretched toward towering mountains. At sunset, the orange sky bathed the landscape in mystical hues, while the songs of birds echoed across the fields, announcing that something extraordinary was about to happen. Raphael was a man with deep eyes, rooted in the land like the roots of a farmer. His calloused hands told stories of hard work and resilient hope. The creases in his sun-kissed, time-weathered face revealed a patient soul who carried the weight of his family with dignity and unconditional love. Even tired, his eyes sparkled with determination. Raphael's day began before the sun even awoke, with the crowing of the first roosters breaking the silence of dawn. His routine was an ancient, sacred dance with the earth, where each movement carried the wisdom of generations of farmers who understood the delicate balance between labor and hope. Clara, his wife, prepared coffee from home-roasted beans, while their two sons, Peter and John, got organized to help with daily tasks. The hot, strong coffee was more than sustenance. It was a ritual of family connection, a moment where they exchanged glances, expectations, and strengthened the bonds that sustained them. Raphael knew that each day was a silent battle against the uncertainties of nature. His firm steps traversed the wheat fields, observing each plant, every inch of soil with a nearly paternal care. His calloused hands touched the still green ears of wheat as if he could transfer energy and protection through the touch. The drought had left deep marks not only on the land but on the souls of those farmers. Raphael felt the weight of this reality in every sigh, in every gesture. He did not show despair, but a serene determination that persistence would be his greatest ally. His faith moved mountains, even when the landscape seemed arid and hopeless. His neighbors were his second family. They exchanged seeds, tools, advice, and hopes. During the hot afternoons, they gathered to share cultivating strategies, old stories, and dreams of better times. Raphael was respected not for his wealth, but for the integrity and generosity with which he led his life. At night, as the sun set painting the sky in orange hues, Raphael gathered his family. The moments at the table were sacred. They talked about the day, shared concerns, and celebrated small victories. Peter and John learned more than agricultural techniques. They absorbed lessons of resilience, love, and dignity. His life was a silent testimony that true wealth did not lie in material possessions, but in the capacity to love, to persist, and to believe, even when everything seemed to conspire against him. Raphael was more than a farmer. He was a guardian of hopes, a cultivator of dreams that sprouted from the earth with the same strength with which his family grew. The severe drought advanced over the Valley of Souls like an unyielding sentence, transforming the golden wheat fields into an arid and desolate landscape. The first signs of scarcity began to erode Raphael's hopes as he watched his land, his greatest treasure, wither under the merciless sun. Each day, the once generous horizon turned into a desert of unfulfilled promises, growing a deep anguish that infiltrated every thought, every gesture. The impacts of the drought were devastating. The plants that once promised a bountiful harvest wilted, their brittle stalks like dry bones, revealing the cruelty of an unpredictable nature. Raphael observed every inch of soil with a mix of pain and determination, feeling the weight of sustaining not only his family, but an entire community that depended on that crop for survival. Clara, his wife, tried to keep hope alive. Her once bright eyes now reflected a silent worry that permeated every meal, every family conversation. The boys, Peter and John, sensed the tension, and even in their youth, understood that something serious threatened the balance of their dreams. The family's savings were quickly depleting. The money saved from years of hard work began to dwindle, transforming into a few coins that barely covered their basic needs. Raphael felt the weight of each decision, aware that every cent could mean the difference between survival and complete helplessness. The financial pressure was like a constant shadow, following Raphael in every movement. His nights were filled with silent calculations, searching for alternatives, imagining ways out that seemed impossible. The land, once his greatest ally, now felt like an unforgiving adversary, challenging his resilience and faith. The community was suffering too. Neighbors, once united by solidarity, began to show signs of despair. Casual conversations turned around the drought, the lost harvests, and the growing debts. Raphael listened to each account as if they were open wounds on his own heart. feeling the responsibility to find a solution that could save not just his family, but all those who shared that territory. At that crucial moment, Raphael understood. He needed to do something extraordinary. His life as a farmer, based on honest work and unwavering hope, would be tested like never before. The drought was not merely a natural challenge, but a trial that would put his integrity, faith, and ability to overcome seemingly insurmountable adversities to the test. The decision loomed close. Raphael knew that difficult choices would be inevitable, and that the fate of his family depended on his courage and wisdom to navigate through those trying times. The afternoon silence seemed to carry the expectation of a transformation, a moment that could completely change the course of his existence. On the dark afternoon when Raphael's fate would intertwine with the extraordinary, a mysterious traveler appeared in the drought-stricken fields, bringing with him an air of enigma and temptation. His steps were silent, almost ethereal, and his eyes shone with an intensity that defied human comprehension. Raphael, absorbed in his thoughts about the barren land and the challenges he faced, initially did not notice the stranger's presence. His tired but determined eyes continued to examine the parched fields, searching for some sign of hope amid the desolation. When he finally noticed the traveler, Raphael felt a chill run down his spine. It was not pure fear, but a deep sensation that something transcendental was about to happen. The man wore dark clothes that seemed to absorb the light around him, creating an aura of mystery and allure. "I know of your struggles, Raphael," said the traveler, his voice soft as a whisper, yet penetrating as a secret in the silence. "I know every tear shed, every hope frustrated. I have come to offer a solution to your problems." Raphael remained silent, his gaze alternating between the stranger's face and the devastated fields. He knew that this moment could completely change the course of his life. The proposition he was about to hear carried the weight of a decision that transcended the limits of human reason. The traveler continued, his eyes sparkling with a seductive promise. "I can guarantee abundant harvests, wealth for your family, and prosperity for the entire village. All you need to do is agree to a small deal." In that instant, Raphael grasped that the true challenge lay not in the offer itself, but in the moral choice he would have to make. His soul wrestled between the practical need to save his family and the ethical principles that had guided him throughout his life. The proposal hung in the air like a thick fog, loaded with possibilities and consequences. Raphael felt the weight of every second, aware that his decision would not only affect himself, but all those who depended on his integrity and courage. The traveler waited, still as a statue, his eyes fixed on Raphael, penetrating his soul and revealing the deepest fears of the farmer. It was a moment of trial, where fate seemed suspended between temptation and virtue. Raphael took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the universe on his shoulders. He knew that his choice would be the true test of his character, something that transcended simple material survival and touched the deepest layers of his human existence. As the sun began to set, leaving the Valley of Souls steeped in amber, tones and long shadows, a strange traveler appeared on Raphael's path. His steps were slow, almost ethereal, and his eyes seemed to carry ancestral secrets that surpassed human understanding. The traveler wore a dark cloak that danced with the evening breeze, and his presence was simultaneously seductive and threatening. His eyes, a color indefinable between black and red, fixed on Raphael with an intensity that sent chills down the farmer's spine. "I know your difficulties," said the stranger, his voice soft as silk but laced with a promise that resonated beyond words. "The drought devours your hopes, consumes your dreams, but I can change all of that." Raphael hesitated, feeling the weight of each word. He knew that this proposal was not ordinary, it was not natural. Something about this encounter transcended the simple reality of his existence as a farmer. The traveler continued, his eyes shining with an almost supernatural light. "I can bring rain to your fields, make your crops grow like never before. Wealth, abundance, plenty, everything you ever dreamed of. The price? Just your soul." The proposal hung in the air like a challenge, like a temptation confronting all of Raphael's principles. His soul, what defined him, what connected him with his family, his land, his deepest beliefs. How could something so precious be bartered for material prosperity? Raphael's thoughts flickered between urgent needs and his moral integrity. The drought had consumed not only his crops but also his hopes. Every saved cent was dwindling, and his children's future seemed shrouded in uncertainty. The traveler remained still, observing every nuance of expression on Raphael's face. His presence was like a shadow that hovered between the real and the mystical, challenging traditional understandings of good and evil, sacrifice and gain. "Reflect," said the stranger. "Not everyone has the courage to do what is necessary. True wisdom lies in recognizing that sometimes we need to cross boundaries to protect what we love." Raphael felt his heart race. The proposal confronted him, not just with a financial decision, but with a moral dilemma that touched the deepest roots of his existence. His soul was at stake, and the price was the salvation of all that he loved. The silence between them was dense, laden with expectations, with possibilities that could completely transform the fate of that family. Raphael knew that his choice, at that moment, would define not only his future, but the legacy he would leave for his children. The unity of the farmers became the only hope against the relentless drought devastating the Valley of Souls. Raphael, realizing that solidarity would be their greatest strength, called a crucial meeting at the small local church, where the farmers would share their anxieties and seek collective solutions. Gathered under the old wooden roof, the farmers exchanged concerned glances, but also determination. Raphael, with his firm and compassionate voice, proposed a community effort to develop alternative irrigation and cultivation techniques. Each farmer would be responsible for sharing knowledge and resources, turning scarcity into an opportunity for collective growth. Men and women discussed innovative strategies. They dug deeper wells, built small reservoirs to capture the scarce water available, and exchanged seeds more resilient to drought. Peter and John, Raphael's sons, eagerly assisted, learning that true wealth lay in unity and shared knowledge. Clara prepared food for the workers, her gesture of love nourishing not only bodies but also spirits within that resilient community. Every shared loaf, every exchanged tool, every piece of advice represented an act of hope against adversity. The first techniques began to show modest results. Small areas that had been completely barren started to hint at life. The plants, fragile, revealed unexpected strength, as if absorbing the determination of those farmers who refused to give up. Raphael watched every progress with a mix of emotion and caution. He knew that the path would be long and challenging, but each day he saw not only the plants growing but also the confidence of his community. The glances once filled with despair now shone with a renewed light of hope. The following days were filled with hard work and intense collaboration. The farmers developed rudimentary yet efficient irrigation systems. They exchanged information about soil conservation techniques, protecting every inch of land with the same care they would protect their own children. The journey would not be easy. The drought continued to challenge every effort. Every drop of sweat poured into the fields. But something important had changed. The community discovered that its strength was in unity, in the ability to overcome together the challenges that seemed insurmountable. Raphael felt transformed. He was no longer just a farmer fighting alone against nature, but the leader of a community that was discovering its collective power. Each dawn brought not only the hope of a harvest, but the certainty that together they could face any adversity. The struggle against the drought became more than a fight for survival. It was a journey of resilience, love, and hope, where each farmer contributed his part to rewrite the destiny of those seemingly doomed lands. Night fell over the Valley of Souls, painting the sky with leaden tones and mystery. Raphael felt the weight of his decision as if he carried the world on his shoulders. The strange traveler stood before him, his eyes burning like embers, challenging every moral principle that the farmer had built over the years. "Your soul for prosperity," murmured the traveler, his voice a whisper that seemed to transcend time. Raphael took a deep breath, feeling the sweat trickle down his sun-etched face filled with worries. The barren fields around him seemed to whisper their own laments, silent witnesses to that crucial moment. The proposal was as tempting as honey and as poisonous as the deadliest of serpents. Raphael thought of Clara, of Peter and John, of his family's hopeful eyes that depended solely on him. Every saved cent had vanished. Every hope of harvest turned to dust under the relentless sun. The traveler did not press, merely observed. His presence was a silent invitation to temptation, a challenge to the limits of human integrity. Raphael felt that this decision transcended a simple financial choice. It was a direct confrontation with his own essence, with the values that defined him as a man, as a father, as a human being. "Think carefully," said the stranger. "A single, gesture can transform everything. Your parched lands will once again be fertile. Your children will have plenty. Your wife will no longer know the tears of scarcity. The words danced in the air like seductive promises, each syllable laden with an almost hypnotic power. Raphael closed his eyes. He mentally witnessed his family wither, saw the fields grow increasingly barren, saw the future consuming itself, like ashes. But he also saw his soul, that untouchable part that carried his dignity, his principles, his honor. How could he give up something so precious? The internal confrontation was a silent battle. On one side, immediate needs, practical survival. On the other, values built over a lifetime of honest work. Raphael understood that this choice would define not only his destiny, but the legacy he would leave for his children. The traveler remained still, his presence a constant challenge. His eyes, sometimes black as night, sometimes red as embers, seemed to read every thought, every hesitation of Raphael. It was a moment of trial, where temptation whispered alluring promises into the ear of hope. "My soul is not for sale," Raphael finally replied, his voice firm as thunder, breaking the tense silence. "Our strength does not come from pacts with shadows, but from unity, hope, and collective work." In that instant, something extraordinary began to happen. The sky, once gray and barren, began to transform. Dark clouds gathered, bringing the promise of rain, renewal, and miracle. On the afternoon when hope seemed to run out, an inexplicable miracle transformed the Valley of Souls. The first soft, generous raindrops fell, as if the very earth was celebrating Raphael's victory over temptation and despair. The arid fields, once parched and gray, began to awaken, drinking each drop as if they were thirsty creatures resurrecting after a long ordeal. Raphael watched the phenomenon with tears in his eyes, feeling that something greater than his human understanding was happening. The rain was not merely water, but a blessing, a silent response to his integrity and unwavering faith. Each drop that touched the earth seemed to carry with it the redemption of an entire community that had bravely resisted adversity. Clara, his wife, emerged from the house with open hands, letting the drops touch her skin like a divine caress. His sons, Peter and John, ran through the wet fields, shouting with joy, their laughter mingling with the rhythmic sound of the rain. The joy was communal, a feeling that transcended the boundaries of a single family and infected the entire village. Neighbors, once defeated by the drought, began to emerge from their homes. Men, women, and children embraced each other, celebrating what felt like a miracle. Raphael was the center of those celebrations, not for any specific heroic act, but for the hope he had kept alive throughout that difficult time. The plants, once wilted and yellowed, began to regain new life. The wheat, fields that seemed condemned, were rising again, golden and promising. It was as if the very earth recognized the victory of honesty over temptation, of unity over individual despair. In that moment, Raphael understood that his true wealth had never been in material possessions or seductive promises, but in the strength of his family, in the unity of his community, and in the faith that kept him firm even in the toughest times. The rain was more than water. It was the concrete proof that hope, when nurtured with love and integrity, always finds its way. Night descended upon the Valley of Souls, now transformed. The moist earth exhaled a scent of renewal, and the stars seemed to shine more brightly, as if celebrating that silent victory. Raphael, sitting at the table with his family, looked at Clara and his children, feeling that in that moment, they had achieved much more than a harvest. They had preserved their dignity, their soul, and their hope. The miracle was not in the sudden rain, but in the human capacity to resist, to believe, and to choose the right path, even when all other options seem more tempting. Raphael had proven that true wealth cannot be bought, cannot be bargained. It is earned with love, work, and integrity. In the final epilogue, Raphael contemplated the journey taken, understanding that his true wealth had never been in material possessions, but in the strength of community, in familial love, and in integrity. The miracle was not merely the rain that revitalized the fields, but the inner transformation that demonstrated that hope and unity overcome any adversity, inspiring generations with its silent and resilient wisdom.